Good news, good people, good life. Los Banos today.
This video is brought to you by MLC Fence Company of Los Banos. Give them a call today for a free fence estimate at 209-587-0011. That's 209-587-0011. MLC Fence Company of Los Banos. Servicing wood, vinyl, and chain link fences. Give them a call today for all of your fencing needs. Welcome, viewers at home, and thank you for joining us here today on the first ever Los Banos Political Candidate Forum. My name is Dave Hogan. I am your moderator. The forum is brought to you today by MLC Fence Company of Los Banos. Give them a call today for a free fence estimate at 209-587-0011. MLC Fence of Los Banos, servicing wood, vinyl, and chain link fences. I would like to welcome Political Forum, and I would like to welcome our guests, John Cates and Brett Jones. Both of you gentlemen are running for a seat on the City Council, District 3. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you for joining us here today. You both have 2 minutes for your opening statements, and since John won the coin toss, John, you'll be first.
Okay. Well, Dave, thank you for the forum. Appreciate this. I think it's pretty good to be able to finally do something like this where a lot of people can take advantage of knowing who the candidates are, so it's great. My name is John Cates. I'm running for City Council District 3. My intent is to continue to represent the city and the citizens of the city by sitting on the City Council for District 3, not just representing District 3 itself, but also the city as a whole. Having 4 years on the Planning Commission at this point, and 2 years, the last 2 years being chairman, I've garnered a lot of experience and insight into decision making and how the city functions intrinsically associated with the general plan and ordinances and the various technical details behind how a city operates. My intent is to continue that, to move forward, and at least finally have a legislative decision-making power versus the recommendation power that we have currently sitting on the Planning Commission. Again, my intent is to fairly represent not only the city but also the citizens of this great town, and I have great ideas and inspiration and passion for the city to move forward. And being a 30-year resident, I've seen this town grow. There's been a lot of people that have seen this town grow faster and longer than I have, but the town's grown exponentially, and we need to catch up to the growth. And so I have plans and ideas behind that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, John and Brett.
Hello, my name is Brett Jones. Born and raised in Los Banos. I too on the Planning Commission. Been on that for the past 2 years. Before that, I started my introduction to the city with the EDAC committee. It was a great introduction on how some of the governing laws work with getting important items passed through town. With my background as a real estate broker and a property manager, I've seen firsthand the growth that we've had, the neighborhoods that we live in. I've even seen, some of the easiest ways to fix some of our everyday problems that we have as a city. These are some of the items that I like to bring to the table, based on my experience and my background, to help solve some of our challenging issues as a city, from our crime to our financial situation, our budgets, as well as bringing more jobs and getting people to shop local in this town.
Awesome. So, gentlemen, here are the rules. It's very simple. No crosstalk while the other candidate is talking. Once they've finished, the next candidate can begin answering the same question. We will alternate the questions so each of you has an opportunity to answer a question first. You will each receive 3 minutes for your answer. You'll receive 2 minutes for your closing statements. If anybody disagrees with these rules, go ahead and speak now. Okay.
Will you
then
give
we're
us
all-
a will you give us a high sign when we've got like 30 seconds left
Sure.
on the time limit,
yeah,
something
you
like that?
got it. We'll
So
give
we
you
know
a
how to
little-
wrap up. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Well,
so
will that be like 30 seconds?
It's
or-
3 minutes per
Yeah,
question, so
I
I'll
know.
just give you. You want a 30-second?
Yeah, like
I'll
30
give you a 30-second.
to the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You
Perfect.
got it. Okay, so John, since you won the coin toss, you'll be the first candidate to go, and then Brett will follow through with that. And the first question, John, is if elected, how will you help bring jobs to the city of Los Banos?
Thank you, Dave. So again, as chairman of the Planning Commission, I'll be involved with the general plan update, which is currently happening. We've attended a couple of combined sessions with the city council and city officials associated with the general plan update, which is currently happening. That plan will help us plan, of course, for the future and ensure that it's going to, with the zoning and ordinances that are affected by that general plan update, will hopefully bring more attractiveness to the city for businesses and industry to come in. And that's kind of part of my game plan is to try to pursue that. We already have an employee base here that commutes out of town every day of the week to work somewhere else. Well, why can't we keep them here in town and live, work, and play in Los Banos? And when I say play, I don't mean going bowling or bocce ball, but I mean actually be able to go out, have dinner here, enjoy the quality of life that everybody deserves. And unfortunately, as a 23-year commuter myself, when we first moved here, I know how the quality of life suffers when you're commuting over the hill every day. So, again, part of my plan and opportunity to take advantage of the general plan update is to also try and look at ways to incentivize and attract new businesses and industry to Los Banos to establish a footprint. Hence, then seeing that there is an employee base here that they can pick from, and again, help to provide a quality of life, work-life balance solution to a portion of those commuters that commute out of town every day. It'll be a long-term plan, but we got to get the ball rolling. And once we begin the momentum, I think we'll be in a good spot. So that's my plan. Governments typically don't create jobs unless you are hiring people to work for the government. I always like to say that because the only thing that a government official can do is make the environment better for businesses to come and hire folks, establish a footprint, come and hire folks, and that's my intent.
Okay, thank you very much. And Brett, the same question?
We as a city need to be shovel-ready for industry. For the next business that wants to move to Los Banos, or else they will move to a city like Patterson. Investing into our infrastructure and laying out key locations in our general plan for commercial and industrial growth will greatly improve our development of new jobs. Another way to bring jobs into Los Banos is targeting companies that already have employees living in Los Banos that are commuting. It's beneficial for companies to relocate to Los Banos if they, one, can cut expenses, and two, if they already have a local workforce in place. We will need the help of our residents that commute to let us know about the company that they work for so we can start building a relationship from as a city to recruit and hopefully get these companies to expand to Los Banos.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brett. And we apologize for the audio problem.
No worries.
Working on that right now. Thank you so much. Okay, and Brett, we're going to start with you on this one.
Okay.
How do you feel about the prices of homes in our city since 20% or so of our residents are considered to be at or below the HHS poverty level of 24,000?
Well, when we look at the census data, it is good to know the facts that make up the data. Because Los Banos still relies greatly on the farming industry, we have a large number of residents that are seasonal workers 4 months out of the year, and the other 8 months they collect unemployment. This directly affects our census data. Home prices in Los Banos are rising, and they're going to keep rising. You will never hear any current homeowner complain if there's a rise in their property value. The issue comes for residents that are either renting or living with friends and family that have goals of one day being a property owner. One thing we can do as a city is encourage developers to build a wide range of housing stock, from affordable condos and townhomes to one-of-a-kind custom homes so that residents have housing options.
Okay, John, same question? Sorry about that.
It's okay, Dave. So unfortunately, there's a thing called the free market that drives cost of anything. If you're a consumer, the market drives the real estate market. Basically, we have so much spillover from expensive homes and cost of living in the Silicon Valley that a lot of us, including my family, in '89 moved here because of that. So we've experienced the same exact thing. We couldn't afford a house in San Jose or any of the other South Bay areas in '89 of all places, of all times. And we moved to Los Banos for affordable housing. Now, unfortunately, some folks will end up having to do that from Los Banos, but the biggest key here is because the market drives it. Unfortunately, the state government has had to get involved in legislating solutions that otherwise probably wouldn't ever be looked at or done in the free market. The governor of this great state signed a 15-bill packet back in 2017 that each one of those bills addresses some form, shape, or other for making affordable housing more readily available for those low-income folks. Most of the bills in that packet have started or will be beginning to activate by the beginning of 2019, and it includes all kinds of low-income housing mandated solutions, as well as funding and local municipal mandates, like for the city of Los Banos. And with that, part of the general plan update, as I mentioned previously, will also have to include and add zoning, if we don't already, which I believe we do, but not much, to add mid to high density affordable housing, and that's going to be all relative to the state mandates that have been signed in as a bill.
Fantastic. Okay, John, you're going to get the next one. So what are your thoughts on preventing crime in our city?
Well, preventing crime is, of course, a primary fundamental for any government representative at any level. Public safety is a huge concern for anybody that wants to live a civilized life, right? In fact, preventing crime and trying to assist in any way to get public safety as a focal activity for us was key in my mind about 4 or 5 years ago, and I started looking at ways that I could help in that respect. and found out that I could take advantage of a police volunteer program called Vital. And I've been on the Vital police volunteer team for about 4 years. What Vital team does, for anybody that's interested, is you help with crowd control, parades that go onto public access roads, things like that. They even help in the administrative tasks at the police department. So that's one reason I joined, was because in order for us to free up our officers to not have to do that kind of work and to actually be out on patrol, I felt that was one of the ways I could help. But also wanted to mention that 75% of the citizens recently surveyed highlighted public safety as their main concern. And with that, there's an established proposal, Measure H, which will be a half-cent sales tax, which will be coming up here in November, along November 6th with the election. And and as that, the city council and mayor unanimously voted to approve that measure to go onto the ballot as a funding mechanism for additional public safety, police and fire. So, as a city council member, I will always focus on ensuring that adequate funding for police and fire and all of our public safety and first responders in this community are at the forefront, and I will always be the loudest voice on the dais to ensure that that funding is earmarked appropriately, and whatever funding is needed by the police chief and the fire chief and other first responders within the city limits is made a priority.
And Brett, same question?
So public safety is number one on my platform. When I was a kid, I remember riding my bicycle around town on any street. Didn't have to worry about gangs and drugs. The only thing I had to worry about was whether or not the police were going to catch me riding my bike without my helmet. Back then, police used to cite minors for not wearing helmets, and then they would make us walk the bike home. We didn't have to worry about locking our doors, our house doors, or our car doors. We didn't have the issues that we have now. But things have changed. We have a serious problem with gangs, drugs, and homelessness. So getting back to the question on how to prevent crime in Los Banos, first and foremost, we need more police officers. Right now, police officers are on the defense. They're doing the best they can, prioritizing calls, but it's not enough. If we had more police officers, our response times would be cut way down, which means by having shortened response times, it would ultimately discourage criminal activity from even developing. The other thing is we need to, another item we can do to focus on more to help prevent crime is focusing on providing more resources to some of our city youth programs like PAL and other programs that are great for kids. Youth programs have been proven to transform the lives of kids and provide the tools they need to transfer into becoming functional members of the community.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And I, again, apologize about our... Yeah, we'll get a boom mic for the next one. Thank you guys so much for your patience and also for joining us here today. And Brett, you're going to be going next on the next one. Brett, what are your thoughts on schools and education in our city?
Well, I'm not a school teacher, so as far as advice on teaching kids, I would always lean towards the advice of teachers on what they need, and hopefully help support them and provide any resources we can as a city to get them the tools they need to do their job. But ultimately, one of the things that we have an issue with is we've been reactive on the development of new schools. Right now, we are in the process of building one school for a city. But in reality, we need to start planning, and we need to be proactive and start planning for our next 5 to 6 schools, so we can get ahead of this growth curve that we're experiencing. This would be a huge win for Los Banos if we can start planning many years out for our growth when it comes to our schools.
Fantastic. And Brett, or John, the same question?
All right. So the education system in this country is critical in developing our children into productive members of society. The importance of schools and education is highlighted by the fact that my wife has been a school teacher in the Los Banos Unified School District for 27 years, and she's currently teaching ESL at Pacheco High. She's covered mostly 5th grade, I think 1 year of 4th grade, and then the rest has been at the high schools. So it is important to me. My daughters went through the school district system, and now are going to be. My oldest is a functioning physical therapist, working in Sacramento, and my youngest daughter is finishing up her teaching credential to teach ag somewhere near the valley. But they're both results of the educational system here in Los Banos, so it is very important to me. As a council member, I would have minimal influence in what the school district does, because there is a true delineation between both entities. The school district has its own powers, and really is mandated by county and state. Their actions are approved and whatnot. What the city can do is work as a cooperative partner with them. And in fact, today, and I believe it's been 5 or so years, there's a 2x3 meeting that takes place between the city and the Los Banos Unified School District on a regular basis. And it's 2x3 because it's a subcommittee. It's comprised of 3 board members, the superintendent, and a city council member, the city manager, and the mayor. So they do cooperative conversations. And as part of the general plan update, there will definitely be zoning and consideration made for additional school expansion in the future, which again, I have a direct role in as a planning commissioner at this point. What I will do as city council is I will want to be on that 2x3 meeting so that we can actually truly have a full coverage of support from the city representatives in those meetings to help support the school district and its struggles to house kids that are continuing to grow and expand in our community.
Okay, John, the next question is for you also. And what are your thoughts on developing infrastructure in our city?
Well, infrastructure, it's key to planning. Part of the general plan update will include all the infrastructure needs, upcoming, new, and any ongoing maintenance for infrastructure that currently exists. The key to this is a balanced approach to how we establish our capital projects to take care of the priority projects to begin with. And of course, all of this has to do with funding, and that's always a challenge for any government body. As we move forward and actually start developing the general plan and implementing parts of that related to infrastructure, we're going to have to be relatively aggressive in finding the funding to fund those capital projects. And I don't think I have to say in detail, but I will anyway. Part of that is water supply, sewer treatment, storm drains, power, and anything that we would have to do to partner with to partner with cell phone companies and our power supplier, PG&E, to ensure that the infrastructure is going to be strong and be able to accommodate the growth that is going to be coming, which is an inevitable thing. But all of that will be written into the general plan, and it will be a primary focus for me if I become District 3 City Council member, to ensure, again, this is another component where I will focus much of my energy, because it is an important factor on how the city can operate and function appropriately, plus give people the quality of life they need to live here.
Fantastic. And Brett, same question.
All right. You know, I guess our biggest goal for a city is to have livable, meaningful jobs here in Los Banos. We'll never have a competitive edge if we don't plan ahead with our infrastructure. Like I mentioned, with bringing jobs to Los Banos, we need to make sure we're shovel ready for industry, bottom line, if we're going to be able to grow as a city in the right direction.
Okay. And Brett, what are your thoughts on a bypass?
Right now, we have a substantial amount of traffic on Pacheco at various times. But it's getting to the point to where it's noticeable for a lot of local residents. You know, it gets so bad at times where we as local residents, we try to find back roads to take on the outskirts of town. Business owners depend on traffic, but too much congestion on Pacheco can actually be harmful for the commerce on Pacheco. It gets to be distracting when there's too much traffic. There's a good amount of traffic that just want to pass through Los Banos, and I'm a firm believer we just need to let it pass through. There's commuters, there's freight trucks, you name it, we have it passing through town. Some of these commuters will never stop and spend $1 in town. We need to move it on through. One of the things that the city is currently working on is an alternative option, actually widening Pioneer Road, turning it into a corridor that will go from possibly Merced College all the way down to Ward Road. This will help move a lot of traffic through. There was talks years ago about bypass. Actually, it's been on the table for many, many years. It's a project that's dead. The cost of that is going to be $400 million, and it's a Caltrans project. So the state has different priorities right now. So a full-on bypass with on and off ramps will not happen, probably not in our lifetime. But I think as a city, we need to plan ahead and try to build these corridors on the south and on the north end of town to kind of help alleviate some of the congestion on Pacheco, so the residents that want to shop on Pacheco and get from one area to the next, from one end to the next, will be able to do that without all this congestion.
All right, and I'm going to pass that mic to John. And John, same question. What are your thoughts on a bypass?
My thoughts on a bypass. Okay, so Pacheco Boulevard, believe it or not, is comprised of two state highways, Highway 152 and Highway 33. So frankly, even though it goes through the center of our wonderful town, Pacheco Boulevard is actually a state project. Similar to what Brett mentioned, the bypass that had been discussed over the last couple of decades, maybe even three, was a good idea early on, and honestly probably should have been initiated 30 years ago. Unfortunately, this, again, what Brett mentioned, the state in about 2015 decided that the bypass was really not going to be a priority going forward. They still have it in the books, but the last estimate I saw was about $480 million, and they say that annually that price goes up $10 million. as the project sits in the books. So again, it would take at least 15 years to really initiate and complete. I agree with Brett. I think that it's, in our lifetimes anyway, it's not going to happen. In the Los Banos 2030 general plan, though, that's the existing general plan. It actually does talk about what Brett's talking about is the Pioneer expansion, and on top of that 4-lane expansion proposed, what we could do is make it a forced truck route, and of course an optional vehicle route, which would then take big rigs off of Pacheco Boulevard, which I believe is the larger opponent to traffic moving more freely through Pacheco Boulevard. Compared to the $480 million plus cost of the actual bypass, it's not going to happen. This is tallied to be around $45 million, and most of that funding is going to be provided by Measure V, which is the county transportation tax that was passed, and along with other, conventional funding channels that the city would be able to take advantage of. Besides that, we'll actually be able to control it because it's actually a city-owned and maintained throughway, so we wouldn't have to abide by, besides maybe some environmental things, we wouldn't have to abide by any kind of state mandates of any kind. And the money would stay here as well and be spent in Los Banos.
Okay, and you're going to go next on this question. What are your thoughts, John, on Measure H?
Well, I've had a pretty good conversation with both Chief Breezy of the police department and Chief Hurley of the fire department regarding the need for additional manpower. In 2008, quite a few police officers were relieved of their duty due to budgetary constraints, from what I understand, and we're playing catch up. Again, there was that survey that went out in the recent past. 75% of the citizens that responded pointed to public safety as their primary concern of all the other items that were on that survey. Measure H, if it passes, the first funds would be available by early spring 2019, and especially with Chief Breezy, he said that they'd immediately begin hiring additional police officers and potentially another dispatcher or two, which is another unseen position in the police department that's very critical, and I know that they're shorthanded today for dispatchers. So the goal for the police department is to hire approximately 10 police officers, and Chief Hurley also said that they're not in as bad a shape, but it'd be nice for them to add an additional 2 to 3 firefighters to the police to the firefighting force. That is if Measure H passes. If Measure H fails, then we're going to continue to see our first responders struggle to keep up with not only petty crime, but even the more major crime events that take place, unfortunately, in our growing community. And it dilutes the police force so much that, again, they're going to struggle, and we as citizens aren't going to have the kind of response times and police force that we need. So Measure H, basically, if it passes and the funds are handled appropriately, which, again, sitting on the seat for District 3 of City Council, I'll make sure I'm a vocal proponent for making sure that those earmarks for the police department and fire are consistently and always given to the police earmarks and the fire earmarks. If any city council member fails to continue to promote that, it's up to the citizens to make that decision on whether or not that city council member should stay or should go.
Okay, pass the mic, and Brett, the same question. What are your thoughts on Measure H?
Well, this is something that I've thought long and hard about. I've talked to numerous people about this, from first responders, business owners, other city employees, and everybody else in between, and got their perspective on it. Everybody has their own opinion on it, so I'll give you mine. If anyone can show me a faster way to get 7 new police officers, 2 full-time firefighters, and a new dispatcher, please let us know. We're all ears right now. We are in desperate need of more first responders, and Measure H will be a great help and a great start to getting what we need.
Okay, thank you very much for that answer. And Brett, if elected, what are your plans for the next 5 years?
You know, one of the main things I want to focus on is getting our fire and police departments the manpower and the resources they need to respond to each and every call adequately. Our response times do take quite a bit for these officers and other first responder personnel to get to us. It shouldn't be that way. So getting the resources and prioritizing that, I feel, is a must, and that's something for the next 5 years that I will definitely be working on full time. I also want to set a plan of action for supporting local businesses. This is key. Making sure our infrastructure is ready to attract new companies and entrepreneurs, and improving opportunities for our local workforce. This is what I feel we need for the next 5 years to focus on.
Thank you so much, Brett. And John, if you could answer the same question, if elected, what is your plan for the next 5 years?
All right, thanks, Dave. Well, if the voters see fit, I'll be starting my second term as a city council member and looking back at my successes of my first term. I'll have helped in completing as a planning commissioner, help completing the general plan update for 2040, and hopefully witnessing and playing an active role in seeing those priority projects being initiated, maybe completed by then, and certainly being near completion. Also, I'll try to influence as much as I can as a sitting city council member to incorporate the balanced growth ideology that I have that ensures the city is executing that, and the balanced growth aspect will be a key to us moving forward. The 5-year plan is a very short-term measure relative to city government, or any government for that matter. A lot of things are currently executing in the city infrastructure that are already going on, and that will maybe either be completed or will be continuing to be completed or initiated within these next 5 years. But again, as city council member, I'll ensure that those priorities are being focused on, and again, we're getting the funding in the right places, and potentially part of those improvements in those 5 years will begin to create a balanced work life for our commuters, which again is another priority of mine, which again, I will focus on over the next 5 years.
Okay, thank you, and fantastic. Great questions and answers. Gentlemen, you both have 2 minutes for your closing statement, and since John started with the opening statement, Brett, we're going to go ahead, and if John, you could pass that mic over to Brett for his closing statement.
Well, I do want to thank everybody for listening in this morning. Bottom line is Los Banos is on my birth certificate. It's not going to go anywhere, neither am I. It's a deep passion of mine to see to it that the city that I live in is in the best hands possible, and so I encourage and ask for everyone for their support and vote on November 6th. And I will work diligently on making sure our priorities are taken care of.
Thank you so much, Brett. And John?
The basis for anyone holding an elected or appointed office is to maintain the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens that they represent. In my role as planning commissioner, this principle has always been the first consideration in my decision-making process. We're witnessing lots of change in our community, and the change will continue. We are growing like every valley community that we see up and down I-5 corridor, especially. We must elect leaders who have the resolve and vision to make those changes work to our benefit, and planning is key. With my experience on the Planning Commission and the last 2 terms as chairman, I'll have been able to establish and grow relationships. I have been able to grow and establish relationships with city staff, getting insight from their needs and challenges. And I've also experienced the foundation to provide the kind of representation and leadership to ensure Los Banos' future growth is balanced and measurable. I'll also be looking far into the future during the imminent process of updating our general plan, which we're currently in the first, maybe 3rd stage of. I'll utilize my experience and connections with Silicon Valley to encourage firms to relocate to expand to Los Banos where possible, which will enable our kids and grandkids good paying jobs right here at home. During the coming changes, my planning expertise will be critical to the task of preserving our quality of life and the unique culture that we enjoy as citizens of Los Banos. And after many years of working as a community volunteer, I know our city has its problems. I'm uniquely prepared for the job of city council member.
We'd like to thank the both of you for joining us here today, and thank you, Brett, for your patience with my low-budget audio equipment. I just want to apologize for that, and it's wonderful and very respectable and commendable for the both of you to join us here today, because not everybody has responded the way you 2 gentlemen have, and I just want to say my hat's off to both of you. Thank you very much for joining us. And this forum was brought to you by MLC Fence Company of Los Banos. Give them a call today for your free fence estimate, 209-587-0011. That's MLC Fence of Los Banos, servicing wood, vinyl, and chain link fences. Thank you so much for joining us here,
Thanks, buddy.
and we'll see you later.